I'd like to welcome everybody to the very first Teen Talk interviews. Now, what we do here with Teen Talk interviews is I'm the host, comedian Herb C, and this isn't really about jokes. This is about help. I have a passion for working with teenagers, and I believe that teenagers aren't bad, they're just misguided. So I like to sit down with a teenager, discuss a topic so that you and other teenagers can hear what they're going through and some of the problems that they face. What we're going to do this week is talk about weed. Everybody knows weed is bad. Everybody knows somebody that smokes weed. And I want to get down to the nitty gritty because it is my belief that weed is really hurting our kids. A lot of people smoke weed and they say, oh, weed is fine. If that's your personal opinion, that's you. And I'm definitely not knocking it. I just feel that a lot of these teenagers are getting caught up with the weed. So this week we're going to speak with a gentleman by the name of Chris. Chris is from Maryland and he does smoke weed pretty much every day. So we're going to sit down with Chris and get some insight as to what's really going on in his world. My hope at the end of this interview is that you say, man, if I know somebody that smokes weed that's a teenager, maybe I need to talk to him, pull him to the side. Because they might be crying out for help. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the interview and I'm going to cut back to myself to give a little commentary and then we'll go back to the interviews. Alright, hope everybody enjoys. So the first thing I asked Chris was, when did you start smoking weed? Listen to what this guy said. It's completely going to have you all going crazy.
The first time I ever smoked was 8, but I was 10.
8 years old.
Yeah.
Do you know what most kids are doing at 8? They're like playing a Wii, playing PlayStation. You were smoking weed at 8. That's crazy.
So obviously, when this boy told me that he started smoking weed at 8, I was like, man, somebody really let this kid down. So we were talking about it, and so I said, well, how did you even get introduced to weed at 8? And this answer is just as bad as the first one.
Like my uncle, he just came, he was like 15, and I guess it was a joke to all his friends. He just come home and just smoke with me, I just get high with him.
Yep, just in case you thought you missed it, this boy said he would smoke with his uncle. Now, I know that things are different nowadays, and like when I was growing up, your uncle, he was like an old man. But now, uncles are 1 year, 2 years, and in some cases the same age. So if you're a parent and you know that your child has an uncle that's the same age as them or maybe a little bit older, understand that that's where a lot of your problems could be. And if you're a teenager listening to this, look, I know you look up to your big brothers, your big sisters, your big cousins, but sometimes they're going to steer you in the wrong direction. It's up to you to say, hey, I got to back. So I asked Chris if he will be real with me and tell me what he thinks are the real consequences of smoking weed. A lot of kids will tell you, oh man, ain't no real consequences, man. You can just do it and have fun. But, this is an anonymous voice, a real kid, but his name has been changed. So I said, hey, stretch out and tell us what you really believe. Forget what your friends say, forget what your teachers say. And this is what he said.
You can't be an athlete and smoke weed. You can't be a student and smoke weed unless you're working really hard.
Take it from Chris. He smokes weed. He tells you it just makes you want to do nothing.
So this was a lot of good insight for us, like even myself as a parent, because a lot of us think that you got to smoke weed because, it gives you hype or, it gives you some type of cool feeling. But really, from what Chris is saying is it just makes you kind of want to do nothing, and it will affect your schoolwork, and it will make you one of those kids that just does nothing with themselves. So a woman in my community asked me, she said, Herb, where in the world are all these kids getting this money, to smoke all this weed? Are they breaking into houses? I said, I don't know. So I posed the question to Chris, and this is what he had to say about it.
My family is not poor, man. I get money from my grandmother, my mother, my stepmother, and my...
So you was using like allowance money?
Now as a parent, this it really makes you mad because you're like, man, I'm giving my kid money hoping they're going to buy video games, clothes, but no, they're going to buy weed. So this is kind of crazy. And for you teenagers, I guess y'all are getting over on us. I guess we gotta be a little bit more smarter about what you all are actually doing with the money that we're giving you. So as the interview moved on, I decided to talk to Chris about his future goals. What were some things that he could see himself doing, preferably without weed, but I just wanted to know in general, what are some of the things that are going through his head? This is what he had to say.
At first it was smoke related. I mean, it was sports related, but then I was just like, I can't do sports because first of all, I can't even run down and back a court 3 or 4 times without getting tired. Mm-hmm. So with me, it's got to be with my brain because I'm kind of smart.
Did you hear the Freudian slip that he said at the beginning? Yeah, at first it was sports related. Yeah, that's how much weed these kids are smoking. So parents, I hope you can hear, hey, my kid's thinking about doing weed. They need to stop because this kid can barely function. And for all you kids out there that are listening to this, understand that weed really does affect your level of thinking. But anyway, it was good to hear Chris say that he knows he's smart, because that at least gives you something to work with. A lot of parents think that these kids are just smoking weed. They don't care about anything in the world, but they really do care about something. They just kind of misguided, misdirected. But he does know that he's smart, and that's a start. I can work with that, and I think other people can too. So I wanted to know if Chris could, identify what are the things that are causing him the most trouble right now in his life. And he had a pretty good answer for it.
Overcoming peer pressure and family issues.
Okay, parents, this is where we're activated here. The only way a kid can really get over peer pressure is if it's modeled for them. A kid is going to say, hey, no, I don't want to do that if they feel like their core values are strong enough. So we as parents have got to do our part to make sure that we're getting these kids on the right foot and giving them all the knowledge they need to say no. As far as family issues are concerned, you got to be in the open. If you have some people in your family, there's some issues, don't hide it from your kids, especially not the teenagers, because they're already looking to grasp onto anything that they can in the first place. So we got to start getting real with our kids and say, hey, look, Uncle Ray, he's schizophrenic, so sometimes he might say this or do that. Don't hide it from your kids, because you certainly don't want them resorting to friends and drugs to get all their issues solved. And for any teens listening to this, you guys have responsibility too. If your parents tell you you might want to stay away from this, you need to watch out for that, you got to listen. You got to respect that, because when the time comes and it's presented in front of you, you got to be the one to say, you know what? My mom did tell me this, or my dad or my grandma did tell me I don't need to do this. So, it's really on us, but you guys have a responsibility too. So I ended my interview with Chris by allowing him to really kind of get his feelings out and express how he feels. Now, this part really is twofold. For the parents listening to this, I really want you to really listen to what this kid is saying, because there's a good chance that your son or your daughter or your niece or nephew or cousin or whoever it is might be feeling the exact same way. And for the teens listening to this, I want you to see if you can empathize or feel what this kid is saying, because you might be feeling this way. So everybody really pay attention to what this kid's saying. He's a sharp guy, and he was just speaking from his heart.
People do got like gifts and talents. They just got to unravel them. And sometimes you need help with that. You can't do it yourself. And like, once somebody instills negative in you, you're already gonna be negative. You don't know what positive is, but you know right from wrong on the inside. But sometimes you just don't care. Sometimes you just do what the negative is. But once you learn positive, you know that you can go somewhere with your life, and you don't have to. You don't have to just smoke weed and do crime.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. This is my very first Teen Talk interview, and it was fun. I want to thank Chris for giving all his insight and his knowledge. And I'm doing this because, I'm a jokester. I love jokes, but I have a real passion for teenagers. And I know that there are teens out there who need the help, and they're asking for the help, but nobody's stepping up to the plate. So I just hope and I pray that people who listen to this who are 18 or older adults, you can find a local mentor program in your area and get involved. You know, it only takes one. You don't need a whole bunch of kids. Just find a kid, link up with that kid, and maybe see that kid 2 or 3 times a month. And just ask him how he's doing and check up on him, because that's what these kids are asking for. Well, I appreciate everybody checking me out. Check back my page, hjccomedy.com. We'll have more Teen Talk interviews, and we'll update it each week with new topics. All right. Peace, everybody.